Ever found yourself caught in that endless loop of delay, knowing you should be doing something, but you just don't?
Oh, absolutely.
That universal struggle with procrastination, well, that's exactly what we're tackling today. We're diving deep into Jeffery Combs' transformative book, The Procrastination Cure.
It's a feeling we all know, isn't it? That nagging little voice. And, while it might seem like just a minor annoyance for some people, for many others, it really escalates. It becomes this chronic pattern that sort of stealthily sabotages their potential, their well-being, even their relationships sometimes.
Yeah.
It's much more pervasive than most people probably realize.
And that very pervasiveness is what drew Jeffery Combs into this whole subject in the first place. I mean, for over 2 decades, he was busy honing his skills, developing sales teams, building organizations.
Right.
And what he kept seeing again and again was this profound paradox. He saw countless individuals, people who were talented, capable, just brimming with potential, but they were inadvertently, sabotaging themselves. They'd put off learning essential habits or mastering crucial skills or maybe just taking those necessary next steps in their careers. And seeing this consistently, well, that ignited his journey into understanding the science behind it, the deep-seated reasons for procrastination.
Yeah.
He realized it wasn't just about laziness, was it? It was something far more complex.
Exactly. And it's crucial to understand Combs isn't just some academic looking from the outside in. He's an internationally recognized speaker, a trainer, an author, well known for his work in personal growth, leadership, that whole mindset area.
Right.
And his earlier book, Confessions of a Recovering Procrastinator, that title alone tells you something, doesn't it? It really underscores the deeply personal, practical insights he brings. His understanding comes not just from observing others, but from his own, lived experience, grappling with it, overcoming it himself.
That personal journey, I think, really underpins the book's core idea, its thesis, which is honestly quite transformative. It basically proposes that procrastination isn't who you are, it's something you do. Procrastination, he says, is an effect, not a cause.
No.
You don't just label yourself a procrastinator like it's some fixed trait.
Right.
Instead, you find yourself procrastinating because specific underlying causes are creating that effect. It's a profound reframing, shifting the focus from identity to behavior.
And that distinction is so significant. Because if you label yourself a procrastinator, well, it quickly becomes an identity, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You internalize it, it can start to define your self-worth. But the book really challenges this. It argues that people tend to procrastinate in, isolated areas of their lives, not usually across the board. They might put things off in areas where they perceive pain, maybe, or sometimes, and this is interesting, sometimes as a form of rebellion, or even to exert control over a situation.
Right.
So the real mission then is to move beyond just addressing the effect, the procrastination itself, and instead to truly understand the why. Why is this happening?
Getting to the root.
Exactly. By grasping the cause, you can start to live in the solution. But if you're only ever reacting to the symptom, you just stay stuck in the problem. You're forever chasing your tail, basically.
So let's begin to unpack this core understanding a bit more. In this first section, we're really aiming to get to grips with what procrastination truly is, and maybe more importantly, what it absolutely isn't. The book offers a very clear definition, which I found helpful. Procrastination is delaying a project, a task, or an intended course of action, despite expecting to feel the guilt or shame of the delay. It's that internal conflict, isn't it? That knowledge that you should be doing it, coupled with the decision not to.
And this isn't some niche issue affecting just a handful of people. The statistics in the book are quite startling, actually. They reveal just how widespread this is. We're talking 15 to 20% of adults routinely putting off tasks they know they should tackle promptly. And even more starkly, independent surveys back in 2007 showed a staggering 80 to 90% of all college students admitted having major issues with procrastination.
80 and 90%.
Yeah. So this isn't simply about someone being lazy. That's way too simplistic. It's a deeply ingrained, prevalent behavior across different age groups, different life stages.
Right. And again, that fundamental idea of procrastination as an effect, not a cause that's so vital here. The author uses a really simple but powerful example with diet and exercise. If you're struggling with weight, just going on a diet or starting an exercise program, well, that might address the superficial aspects, right? The
Yeah,
effects.
the surface level.
Exactly. But it doesn't necessarily get to the deeper emotional causes, the underlying issues, maybe with your relationship with food or self-image or how you handle stress.
Right.
And the book makes it really clear, if all you do is address the effect, you're essentially just like papering over the cracks. You get temporary fixes, not lasting change.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The book issues a pretty stark warning about this. If you focus only on the effect, you actually continue to live in the problem. You're constantly reacting to symptoms instead of addressing the root. The goal, the real path to lasting change, is to get to that underlying cause. Without that deeper understanding, you're just perpetually chasing symptoms, trying to put a Band-Aid on something that needs, well, genuine self-reflection, maybe even a systemic shift in how you operate.
And the immediate costs, the byproducts of this, they're pretty clear for anyone who's been there. Wasted time, wasted money.
Oh, yeah.
Think about those frustrating late fees or those missed opportunities that just evaporate or, the extra cost of last-minute solutions when you're finally forced to act.
But the book goes deeper than just the tangible costs, the dollars and cents. It really reveals the profound emotional toll, guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And these aren't just, unpleasant feelings. The author describes them as the lowest level of feeling that we transmit to others telepathically through our emotional vibrations.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It is, isn't it? It's powerful, almost spiritual. And contrast that with what he calls the highest levels of feeling, things like love, serenity, bliss. The book argues it's incredibly challenging, maybe impossible, to operate from those desired elevated states when you're constantly caught up in procrastination, weighed down by that heavy burden of guilt and shame.
It just drags you down.
It really does. It dampens your ability to experience joy, to feel light.
And the book gives such a relatable example, almost painfully accurate sometimes. You tell yourself, okay, today I'm going to prospect on Facebook. You've got a clear intention, right?
Mm-hmm. That's productive.
But what actually happens, you get sort of seduced into catching up on posts. You scroll endlessly through your feed. Maybe you like a few things here and there.
Uh-oh, been there.
Right. But you don't actually do any connecting, no reaching out for your business. Why? Because subtly, you're avoiding the perceived pain of rejection or maybe just the discomfort of putting yourself out there. And this is the classic trap. Being busy rather than being genuinely productive. You put off what you know you should do while spending way more time doing what you merely want to do, all to avoid that feeling of discomfort.
It's such a subtle but incredibly powerful form of self-sabotage. And it plays out in our daily digital lives all the time.
Now, let's explore something fascinating, almost counterintuitive about procrastination that the book really dives into. That's the deceptive allure of adrenaline and what the author calls the true path to mastery.
Ah, the adrenaline rush.
Exactly. You know that common phenomenon? The last-minute rush. Whether it's cramming for exams back in college, the author even talks about his own 1970s experience, fueled by no-das and coffee, pulling all-nighters.
That was the memories.
Or lack thereof.
Right. Or frantically rushing to the airport, just making it in the nick of time. So many of us operate on this adrenaline surge. We wait and wait till the perceived pain of not doing something becomes so great that it finally triggers this desperate burst of action. And what's truly fascinating, and the book explains this beautifully, is the brain chemistry involved. Procrastinators can actually become, he says, addicted emotionally and chemically to these dramatic highs and lows.
Addicted?
Really? Yeah. Think about it. When you create that last-minute crisis, your brain releases this potent cocktail adrenaline, cortisol giving you that intense jolt, that focus.
Okay.
Then, when you narrowly succeed, pull off the all-nighter, catch the flight, get a hit of dopamine and serotonin, that feels like an immense reward, right?
Yeah.
Relief, accomplishment.
Yeah, you feel like a hero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that cycle creates this powerful, almost addictive loop. It conditions the brain to seek out crisis just to get that rush.
Wow. That puts a whole new spin on it. And the author shares a really powerful, quite raw personal story that illustrates just how deeply procrastination can escalate, almost into a full-blown emotional addiction.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about his own battle with alcohol addiction in his 20s. It led to DUIs, public intoxication. He knew logically he had a problem, but his mind, as he puts it, kept him in denial.
Denial is powerful.
Incredibly. It took him 6 years, he says, to achieve his first day of sobriety, reaching a point where he felt he almost had to die to change.
Wow. That's intense.
It really is. And it shows this isn't just about delaying a simple task. It's about delaying fundamental self-care, delaying transformation, sometimes to a really problematic, emotionally addictive stage. It shows the extreme end of this pattern.
And the book connects this personal struggle to a broader societal tendency, which raises an important question for all of us, I think. It points out how often we're conditioned, maybe culturally, to mask our feelings with medication, whether it's for anxiety, ADHD, sleep disorders.
Which obviously have their place.
Absolutely. They are vital for many. But the author suggests that in some cases, they might inadvertently dampen creativity. They might numb the very emotional signals that could prompt deeper self-inquiry and genuine lasting change. It's sort of a call to look inward for true solutions, rather than always seeking external cures first.
That leads nicely into another really thought-provoking concept in the book, perfection versus mastery. It delivers this message that feels almost counterintuitive at first. You will never be 100%.
Ooh, that can be hard to hear for some.
Right. The goal isn't about being the best or striving for some unattainable flawlessness, which, let's be honest, often just leads to paralysis.
Yeah, the perfect is the enemy of the good idea.
Exactly. Instead, the book says it's about being your best, and it offers these powerful affirmations. You are brilliant, you are already perfect, you're exceptional, and you truly have what is required, the guts, the juice, the game, as he puts it.
I like that game.
Yeah. It's an affirmation of your inherent capability right now, just as you are, not someday when you're perfect.
And what's fascinating here is how this connects directly to our most valuable commodity, time. The book reminds us each day is this incredible gift, right? 86,400 seconds, 1,440 minutes.
Use it or lose it.
Precisely. If you're constantly chasing some illusory 100% perfection, you're not really using that gift. You're arguably wasting it, pursuing an ideal that can never actually be reached. And time, once it's spent, it's gone forever.
Which ties directly into the contrast the book draws between production and procrastination. It paints this really vivid picture. On one hand, you have the liberation from production. That brings tangible rewards, a paycheck, finishing a project, getting an award, even just a simple hug or thank you. It feels exhilarating, fulfilling.
Yeah, that positive feedback loop.
But then there's the intoxication we derive from procrastination, and that leads to the exact opposite. Guilt, shame, those feelings of unworthiness, like I'm not good enough, or just feeling completely overwhelmed by a task.
They're fundamentally opposite states, aren't they?
Yeah.
One liberates you, gives you energy. The other just binds you in this cycle of negativity and drains you.
Exactly. Okay, so let's shift our focus now. Section 2, the inner game. Here we're diving deep into the power of our beliefs, our sense of self-worth, and, critically, how we set goals.
Right. This is where we really start to understand the internal mechanisms driving procrastination, getting beyond just the surface behaviors.
The book introduces a really compelling concept right off the bat. It talks about how if you say to yourself, oh, this always happens, I always miss deadlines, or I always run late, you're essentially creating a certainty.
Like programming yourself.
Exactly. That certainty, in turn, becomes a powerful belief. And then that belief morphs into an expectation. And these expectations, the book argues, can either liberate you or intoxicate you.
How so?
Well, if you expect to attract money because you truly believe you're good at it, you likely will, right? You act in ways that make it happen.
Okay.
But the reverse is just as true. If you expect failure or expect things to go wrong, you'll often find yourself creating situations that fulfill that prophecy.
And this raises a really important question. What exactly are you attracting with these expectations you hold? The book explains it quite powerfully. You attract to your reality situations in people that fulfill a biochemical craving to which you are addicted.
Biochemical craving. That sounds intense.
It is. He suggests that if, for instance, you're projecting low self-esteem that stems from past trauma, maybe abandonment, neglect, abuse, you're effectively sending out these invisible signals. And those signals tend to attract conflict rather than collaboration.
Wow.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, driven by these deeply ingrained patterns, maybe even operating at a biochemical level, reinforcing those old feelings of inadequacy or not being enough.
The book makes a crucial distinction here, too, one that clarifies something people often confuse. Self-esteem versus self-confidence.
Ah, yes, that's important.
Confidence, he explains, is how you feel about something specific. Like, you might be confident in your ability to give a presentation or confident in a skill you have.
Okay, task specific.
Right. But self-esteem is far more fundamental. It's how you feel about yourself at your core. And the book pushes us to ask these deeper, more existential questions. What do you do while you're living? Who are you, and what are you becoming?
Big questions.
They are. It really frames living life as a vocation, doesn't it? A continuous journey of self-creation, rather than just a series of tasks to tick off a list.
Stepping back a bit, the broader implication here is clear. Your most valuable commodity is time. We keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
And if procrastination is, as the book calls it, the thief of your time, then you could be headed for what it starkly describes as NFL.
NFL, not the football league, I assume.
No, definitely not. It stands for no friends left, no funds left, and not for long.
Ouch. That's blunt.
It's a powerful warning, isn't it, about the ultimate cost of unchecked procrastination. And it highlights that intentions alone, just wanting to change, simply aren't enough. They had to be backed by unwavering commitment and decisive action.
Right.
And often that feeling of overwhelm, which maybe stems from taking on too many obligations, becomes a primary fuel for procrastination. It's this vicious cycle. Perceived obligations lead to paralysis, which then just compounds the feeling of overwhelm.
So what's the solution then? How do you break free from that paralyzing overwhelm and those, colossal goals that often trigger procrastination before you even start?
Yeah, the big, hairy, audacious goals.
Exactly. The book says the key is creating clearly defined goals, not overwhelming, overstated ones. And the author shares this fantastic anecdote. He asks the client how much income he wanted to achieve in his business. The client, all enthusiastic, declares, let's shoot for $200,000.
Go big or go home. Right.
But the author's immediate, almost blunt response was, let's not.
Huh. Okay, why not? What's fascinating is the author's follow-up question. He asks the client, do you have a $200,000 a year habit?
Ah, the habit.
Exactly. The client's confusion just highlights how often people set these colossal goals without understanding or building the daily habits required to actually achieve them. And those unmoored, massive goals, they become an almost perfect excuse to procrastinate because they feel so unattainable right from the start.
So it's the small steps again.
It's the consistent, small, daily actions that build towards those monumental achievements, not just declaring a grand target out of thin air.
And this isn't just, his opinion. The book points to some compelling research. Psychologist Shane Owens from Hofstra University back in 2008.
Yep.
His work showed that procrastinators who used what he called implementation commitments, basically, very clear, concise plans for how and when they'd act, almost like making a specific appointment with themselves to do the task.
Like scheduling it in.
Exactly. Those people were nearly 8 times more likely to actually follow through.
8 times. That's huge.
Isn't it? It really underscores what the book calls the silent power or charisma that clarity and conciseness exude. It makes action almost inevitable when you're that specific.
Which raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
Why do people avoid these small, clear steps if they're so effective? Procrastination often happens when a task clearly has value, but the individual avoids taking the manageable, small steps needed for those important long-term goals. And this is precisely why those lofty, colossal goals are often just a setup for disappointment. They provide an easy out, right? An excuse for inaction, because the gap between where you are now and where you want to be seems impossibly large.
Psychologists Albert Ellis and William Naus, who are cited in the book, offer a really concise definition that probably hits home for many people listening. They define procrastination as delaying task completion to the point of experiencing discomfort.
That discomfort is key. It's not just a byproduct, it's central to the definition itself. You know it's making you feel bad, but you delay anyway. And what's striking here is how a lack of planning is just so common among habitual procrastinators. They tend to live with very little structure, which ironically leads to them feeling constantly overwhelmed by all the projects they've delayed.
Right, the chaos breeds more chaos.
Exactly. And for rebellious personalities, there's often an added layer. The book suggests that rebelling to the point of having no plan is, in fact, planning to fail.
Wow, that's insightful.
It's often an unconscious act of self-sabotage, maybe stemming from a need for control or just defiance against perceived authority or expectations.
So how do we break this cycle? It feels relentless sometimes.
The book suggests approaching it almost like addressing an addiction. Overcoming procrastination is accomplished one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yeah. It requires a daily, conscious commitment to change. A commitment to letting go of feelings, events, people, situations that no longer serve your higher purpose. It's this methodical process of continuous release and forward movement.
Letting go sounds hard.
It can be, but it's also liberating. And stepping back, the broader implication is that even those routine daily tasks, doing the laundry, taking out the trash, getting groceries, they aren't just chores. The book calls them sub-goals.
Sub-goals, okay.
They contribute to a foundational level of daily order.
Right.
And this daily order, the book affirms, will absolutely reflect in your career, in your bigger projects. Life imitates business, and business imitates life.
Ah, okay. So getting your house in order helps get your business in order.
Absolutely. Your habits and discipline in one area, even the seemingly mundane stuff, inevitably spill over into all the others. They shape your overall success and your sense of well-being.
Ultimately, the book concludes this section by saying procrastination is essentially a learned behavior, but it's one that's definitely influenced by hardwired personality traits.
Right.
It's described as the dance between the brain and the situation. And that dance, well, that takes us directly into the next section, where we're going to explore the specific personalities or profiles of procrastinators. This helps us recognize which dancer we might be, or maybe patterns we see in others. All right, let's unpack this. We're now diving into section 3, the profiles of procrastinators. This is where the Procrastination Cure really holds up a mirror, I think. It helps us understand the deeper why behind different patterns of delay.
Yeah, recognizing the pattern is often the first step to changing it.
Exactly. First up, let's talk about the neurotic perfectionist. We all know them, or maybe, let's be honest, sometimes we are them.
Guilty as charged occasionally.
Right. These individuals are highly critical, especially of themselves. They tend to operate with a very all-or-nothing mindset, and they can become utterly paralyzed by the need for everything to be absolutely flawless. The book describes them as meticulous, controlled, often preferring dark colors in their clothing, and usually very intelligent. But here's the profound insight. This relentless pursuit of an impossible perfection ironically leads to high anxiety and depression. Why? Because nothing is ever good enough for them.
And a key insight here, according to the book, is the root of this behavior. It stems from a deep psychological desire for internal control. They want to control everything within their own minds to make absolutely sure it's perfect before they even try anything in the real world. And this is precisely why procrastination becomes so prevalent for them. They're so terrified of failing or not being 100% flawless that they stay perfect in their heads by never even trying.
Wow. Avoidance is a form of perfection.
Exactly. They avoid action to avoid perceived imperfection, which leads to this constant state of internal paralysis and anxiety.
And the author shares a very candid personal struggle that perfectly illustrates this. He admits to, in the past, intellectualizing people right out of his life because they weren't perfect enough for him.
Ouch.
Yeah. Waiting a long time to marry, and even compulsively vacuuming his house in perfect rows, apparently having a vacuum cleaner in every single room as this kind of form of control.
Vacuuming in rows. Okay, that's specific.
Isn't it? He describes his eventual financial success and, more importantly, his peace, coming not from finally achieving external perfection, but from letting go of this neurotic drive and learning to embrace collaboration with others.
That's a powerful shift. From control to surrender and collaboration.
It is. And stepping back, the broader implication is that these individuals often define themselves by all the compulsive things they do. They're constantly trying to live up to these often impossible expectations they set for themselves or perceive from others.
Right. The human doing instead of the human being.
Precisely. If they weren't perfect, it wasn't enough. And that leads to that deep-seated, corrosive belief, I am not enough. It's this relentless internal battle that just drains their energy and prevents any real sense of fulfillment.
So what's the path out for the neurotic perfectionist?
The path the book advises is towards practical perfectionism. It's about shifting your mindset, accepting that good is enough, realizing that being the best is overrated.
Okay.
Instead, the focus should be on being your best, whatever that looks like realistically. The book encourages replacing the very word perfection with terms like excellence or good, great, realistic, maybe objective.
Just changing the language can help reframe it.
Absolutely. And the author's own life-changing shift came when he embraced what he calls relaxed intensity instead of that frantic, high-strung intensity. He learned that surrendering his ego, letting go of the need to always be right, was actually the key to his peace and his financial success. Small, consistent steps, like writing just 2 pages a night to finish a book, rather than facing the daunting task of the whole thing. Objectivity over overwhelming to-do lists, applying knowledge instead of just taking notes.
Relaxed intensity. I like that. Moving on, who's next?
Moving on, we come to the chronic worrier. These individuals, the book notes, tend to have perhaps more deep-seated emotional challenges. They live in this constant world of what-ifs.
Ah, the what-if spiral.
Totally. They constantly crave the familiar, what feels safe, and they feel deeply insecure when faced with anything new or challenging. You'll often hear it in their communication. It's laced with hesitation, lots of ums, ahs, wells, reflecting that internal struggle to commit or feel certain.
And a key insight here is their tendency to just overprocess everything. They really live in their head. This often leads straight to what the book calls the paralysis of analysis.
Paralysis of analysis, yep.
They get completely frozen where they are, thus missing opportunities. They gather information endlessly. They read all the articles, watch all the videos, maybe attend the seminars, but they fail to actually act on any of it. The book describes them as the type who might join an organization, attend all the events, take notes, but they don't do anything. Their deep fear of making mistakes, which is often rooted in past experiences of being judged or criticized, just keeps them stuck in this perpetual mental loop, analyzing forever.
The book shares a really compelling case study here about a client named John. He was a self-described seminar junkie.
Oh, I know the type.
Right. He spent 3 years getting ready to tackle his significant debt, never made a single prospecting call for his business in all that time.
Wow. What was the block?
The cause, which the author helped him uncover, was incredibly deep-seated. It turned out he was an unwanted child. His mother apparently cried every night for 6 months when she was pregnant with him.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And this led to this profound core feeling of not being enough. Once he understood that and worked through it with the author's help, he transformed from being a perpetual preparer into an actual producer. It just powerfully illustrates how those early experiences can shape our adult procrastination patterns, sometimes in ways we don't even realize.
That's incredible. So, stepping back, what's the broader implication for chronic worriers?
Well, the book suggests they often stuff their feelings down, appearing quite unemotional on the surface, but internally they're highly prone to depression. The constant worrying itself literally wears out their adrenal and immune systems.
Physical toll, too.
Absolutely. Leading to physical pain, often neck and back pain, teeth grinding. And the book insightfully links this physical discomfort to underlying emotional issues around receiving, asking, and deserving. They struggle to feel worthy of good things, including relief from pain or achieving their goals.
So the mind-body connection is really strong there.
Definitely. And where does it come from? Sometimes worrying parents, the book mentions the baby boomer generation influenced by the Great Depression as an example. They often constantly seek approval and become quite dependent upon others for insight, advice, and assurance, sometimes acting as, the book calls them, emotional and spiritual vampires.
Ooh, strong words.
Yeah. And they're often stuff collectors, too. Their physical spaces, like their minds, tend to be cluttered and disorganized.
So how do they let go?
The keys, according to the book, involve things like physically loosening up, maybe seeing a chiropractor, getting massages, developing new perceptions through visualization, dream boards, but most importantly, letting go of intellectualizing. They need to learn to live more from your heart, not your head. Stop dwelling on those endless what-if scenarios and consciously choose action, even small actions, to break the cycle. It often takes the pain being great enough to finally make that shift, as the author notes from his own experience and others like Lee Marvin or Bonnie Raitt talking about sobriety. He mentions his own journey through alcohol addiction and chronic worry, finding liberation in sobriety. The book also advises building supportive circles if family doesn't get your entrepreneurial dreams. You can't pick your family, but you can definitely pick your friends. Think Toastmasters, BNI, 12-step programs.
Living from the heart, not the head. That's a powerful shift. Okay, who's next in the lineup?
Next on our list of procrastinator profiles, we have the very intriguing rebellious procrastinator. These individuals, the book tells us, often exhibit classic passive-aggressive behavior. Ah, the subtle saboteurs.
Exactly. They'll say one thing to your face, maybe agree to something, but then do the complete opposite or just nothing. They often gain attention, sometimes unconsciously, by actively creating conflict or resistance. They might appear kind of hip, slick, and cool on the surface, but underneath that smooth exterior, there's often a deep emotional chaos brewing.
And a key insight here, the book says, is their core emotion. It's anger and resentment. They're described as often being uptight, angry, and rigid, maybe even angry all the time, as one book title suggests.
Wow.
And it comes with a serious warning. This chronic anger, if held onto long enough, isn't just emotionally damaging. It can even manifest as serious physical diseases like cancer. It's this toxic internal state that expresses itself through resistance, defiance, and effectively procrastinating on their own peace and well-being.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The book emphasizes that there's tremendous energy in anger.
Okay, how so? If these rebellious procrastinators can learn to channel that intense energy, that fire they feel, they actually have the potential to become incredibly productive. They can transform into this formidable force for positive change, just as they were formidable in their rebellion. It's about redirecting the power.
That's a fascinating perspective, taking that negative energy and flipping it.
Totally. And the author shares a very candid personal battle with this himself. He admits to living much of his life fueled by anger, unconsciously going out of his way to create situations that would lead to resentment because, in a strange way, it energized him. He realized that this anger had actually become his identity. His nonconformity, his rebelliousness led him to believe that rules were for other people, and recognizing that was a crucial turning point.
Self-awareness is key again. So how do they make that shift?
The book introduces what it calls a magical process for letting go of that anger and resentment. It involves objectively examining the cause and effect of your behaviors, asking honest questions like, why do I resent people, as the author did, leading him to books like Angry All the Time and Radical Forgiveness.
Okay.
When you do this, a shift starts to occur. It feels almost magical, he says. Suddenly, new, positive people and situations begin to appear in your reality. It's like creation on demand or experiencing synchronicity.
How does that work?
It happens, the book suggests, when you stop attracting the negativity that reinforces your anger. When you let go of needing conflict, you make space for collaboration and positivity. The ultimate shift for the rebellious procrastinator, then, is moving from anger to creativity and, critically, towards collaboration. Learning to spot the potential for conflict and step back. Choosing to be rich in peace, success, relationships, rather than just being right. Think of figures like Mike Tyson or Robert Downey Jr., who navigated intensely rebellious phases.
From anger to creativity and collaboration. That's a powerful transformation. Okay, let's keep moving through these profiles.
Now, let's explore perhaps one of the most vividly described types in the book, the drama addict. This is your classic last-minute procrastinator. The person who genuinely believes and will tell you they work best under pressure.
Ah, yes, the pressure junkie.
Exactly. They actually take a kind of perverse pride in generating frantic energy, creating a crisis seemingly out of nowhere, and then, right at the 11th hour, swooping in to save the day.
Right, creating their own emergencies.
Totally. And their author gets very personal here again. He shares his own experience of living with debilitating migraine headaches for 8 long years, realizing eventually it was from the self-imposed pressure of this exact pattern. He came to see that pressure is an illusion we create ourselves.
So what's the key insight for the drama addict?
Well, it's a bit of a paradox. While they are incredibly destructive in their patterns, often involving codependency, living for disappointment, procrastinating to avoid potential failure, blaming others, they are also described as highly creative individuals.
Creative? How?
Think about it. It takes a lot of energy and, yes, creativity to constantly produce the kind of chaos and drama they seem to thrive on. They neglect mundane tasks, living in a constant dream state punctuated by crises. They constantly use these crisis statements, my life is over. How am I possibly going to pay my bills?
Over-the-top reactions.
Exactly. To attract attention. They operate from what the book calls a deep pain and pleasure principle. They become almost intoxicated with how bad a situation is, which paradoxically gives them a reason to procrastinate and a source of attention and validation when they overcome it.
So it's a cycle.
A very intense cycle. Intense procrastination, followed by a frantic superstar mode where they pull it off, but they never achieve any real balance or consistency. Their conversations are always laced with drama, intoxicated with their own stories that maintain this identity. Their physical state often reflects this lack of balance, too. Maybe overweight, maybe undernourished.
And this must take a toll on relationships.
Huge toll. They create immense resentment, the book says. They're masterful at manipulating situations to control others' feelings, often through playing the victim. They might instigate huge meltdowns just to justify staying in bed for days, often showing physical signs like puffy faces from the stress and lack of self-care.
Wow. That sounds exhausting.
It is. The book notes they actually have the highest rate of suicide among the profiles because the sheer energy required to stay in that kind of state is completely depleting. It wears out the immune and adrenal systems.
That's incredibly serious.
It is. They often turn to alcohol or drugs to cope, always seeking external cures rather than looking within for the source of the pattern.
Did the author experience this himself?
He did. He pulls no punches, sharing his own 2-year battle with alcohol addiction during a period where he was doing just enough to get by at work, drinking every single night. He'd wake up hungover, push through the morning, then hit overdrive in the afternoons, fueled by adrenaline, completely exhausted by 5 p.m., only for the cycle to repeat. It was a clear pattern of self-destruction masked by those moments of last-minute heroics.
So how do you neutralize that drama addiction? What's the way out?
The solution the book offers is actually simple, though maybe not easy. Consciously avoiding overly dramatic language. Stop saying things like, "this is a disaster," or even, "I'm so tired."
I'm so tired. That seems common.
Because, the author stresses, the unconscious mind sees no separation between fact and fiction. If you constantly tell yourself you're tired or that things are a disaster, your body and mind start to believe it and act accordingly. He describes his own journey to finding peace and a completely changed energy simply by releasing this dramatic internal dialogue and choosing more neutral, objective language.
Changing your words to change your reality. Makes sense. Are there any more profiles?
Yes, finally, we arrive at 2 closely related profiles that often appear together. The angry giver and its subtype, the produceaholic procrastinator.
Angry giver. Tell me more.
The angry giver is someone who constantly overgives. They say yes to everything, take on everyone's burdens, but their underlying motivation, often hidden even from themselves, is seeking recognition or validation.
Okay.
So they say yes, but then later they secretly resent it. They feel taken advantage of. They struggle immensely when they try to transition from being, say, an employee where their identity might be rooted in taking care of others to becoming an entrepreneur where they suddenly have to produce results for themselves.
That's a tough shift.
It really is. They often get caught in that endless loop of getting ready to get ready, taking more training, attending more webinars, collecting more certificates, but never actually producing tangible results for their own venture.
And what's the key insight there?
It often boils down to profound self-neglect. They have poor eating habits, always claiming, "I have no time" for healthy food or exercise because they're too busy giving. They feel taken advantage of in situations that, realistically, they themselves created by failing to set healthy boundaries in the first place. They're trapped in the cycle of resentment that ultimately originates from their own lack of self-care and boundary setting. In free enterprise, they often feel overly responsible for their team's success, leading to guilt and procrastination when others don't perform. The book clarifies it's about mentoring and leading by example, not making them successful.
Okay, so that's the angry giver. What about the produceaholic? That sounds like the opposite of procrastination.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? The produceaholic procrastinator. These are people so intensely committed to success, often working incredibly long hours, that production has become their identity.
Okay, so how do they procrastinate?
They procrastinate on life. They're incredibly driven externally, achieving huge success, but they often avoid intimacy, neglect their spouses, miss family events. They feel, as the book puts it, empty when everyone's gone. Their external success masks an internal emptiness because work has become their sole identity, their addiction, and without it, they feel lost. They procrastinate on relationships, hobbies, rest, self-care.
Wow. So success itself becomes the addiction, crowding out everything else. Did the author relate to this one too?
Incredibly so. He's very candid, admitting to being a produceaholic himself for years, feeling intensely guilty taking vacations, constantly checking emails, and realizing he was procrastinating about having a life. He saw his own business becoming an addiction that was costing him dearly in other areas.
It takes guts to admit.
It does, and it leads to one of the book's most vital messages. Success is worthless if you don't have anyone to share it with.
That hits home.
It's about more than just material gain or external accolades. It's about the richness of human connection, the joy of hobbies, the peace of a balanced life. The author's own shift involved actively scheduling downtime reading fiction for escape, Louis L'Amour westerns, apparently, driving his classic cars, supporting his wife's equestrian hobby, embracing balance, a word he admits he once hated, and learning to be a relaxed producer.
Relaxed producer, there's that theme again.
Exactly. It's about achieving more production, less effort, and more money, more time to enjoy it. This means learning to value and limit your time, diplomatically cutting off those energy-draining drunkalogs from others, and practicing empathy without taking on everyone else's problems.
So what's the overarching message for these last types?
It's a powerful call to embrace receiving. The book states unequivocally, you absolutely deserve to receive it all. Not just the material rewards of your hard work, but also the time and the permission to truly enjoy life, pursue hobbies, recharge, and connect deeply with the loved ones who make it all worthwhile. It's a call to a richer, more balanced existence that values self-care just as much as output.
That's a fantastic summary of those profiles. Really insightful.
All right, we've journeyed through the various profiles, the who and why of procrastination. Now, in Section 4, we're diving into the path forward. This is all about the actionable habits, the concrete steps for lasting change. Because the procrastination cure isn't just about understanding the problem, right? It's about providing real tools to transform your life and become, as the author puts it, a recovering procrastinator.
Exactly. Moving from insight to action. That's crucial.
The book outlines 7 habits for recovering procrastinators. Now, while all 7 are valuable, we're going to focus on some key ones that really shine through as practical, immediate steps you, the listener, can actually take.
Sounds good. Where do we start? Let's kick off with habit #1, have a purpose. Now, what's really important to understand here, according to the book, is that purpose doesn't have to be some grand, earth-shattering, lifelong mission like solving world hunger or something.
Okay, that's a relief.
Right. It can be a daily purpose.
Yeah.
As simple as having a clear intention for a specific business call you need to make, or a specific outcome you want from your morning routine, or even just a clear reason for finally cleaning out that cluttered drawer you've been avoiding.
Small p purpose, not just big P.
Exactly. The book makes it really clear. If you don't have a purpose, even a small one, guiding your actions, you'll inevitably end up fulfilling someone else's purpose. Often that looks like being stuck in a job that just trades your time for dollars without bringing much real fulfillment. So this habit is fundamentally about valuing your time, borrowing time effectively, like learning from mentors, and leveraging your time by giving it clear direction. Without direction, you just drift.
Okay, have a purpose, even a daily one. What's next? Then there's habit, #2. Set small goals. Take small steps one day at a time. This one really hits home for so many procrastinators, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The giant goal paralysis.
Exactly. The book explains the trap of setting these huge goals, the $200,000 income from day one, like that client example. They inevitably lead to feeling overwhelmed, then disappointment when you don't instantly achieve them, and then, of course, right back to procrastination.
Yeah, it becomes an excuse. It's too big anyway.
Precisely. And the book specifically warns against comparing yourself to the superstars or those seemingly perfect lives you see plastered all over social media, because, as the book rightly states, you have no idea what someone else has been through to get where they are. Their highlight reel isn't your reality. It's about focusing on your own lane, your own next step.
So stepping back, the broader implication here is really about setting realistic, objective, and truly attainable goals. That client aiming for 30 enrollments a month when they'd never done more than a couple, that's just setting yourself up for failure. It provides that perfect excuse to give up before you even really start.
Right.
It's all about breaking things down into manageable, bite-sized steps. Those small wins build confidence, they build momentum, and crucially, it's about not letting distractions like getting lost down a social media rabbit hole for hours derail your daily rhythm and focus on those small, achievable steps.
Small steps, big progress. Okay, what's another key habit? Let's jump to habit #6, become reward conscious. The book frames this as being part of ABR, always be receiving.
Always be receiving. Interesting. We're usually told to always be giving.
Right, and that's the point. Many of us are heavily conditioned to give our time, our energy, our resources, but we actually struggle immensely when it comes to receiving what we deserve or have earned.
Yeah, feeling awkward accepting praise or help, or even just a compliment sometimes.
Exactly. We deflect, we minimize, we're uncomfortable being on the receiving end.
So what does reward conscious mean in this context? What's fascinating here is how the book defines reward itself. Reward is what you get for the risk. Taking action, especially when it feels uncomfortable, is a risk. The reward is the positive consequence.
Okay.
And the book makes this powerful argument. If the reward is big enough and you're passionate enough about it, there's a high probability that you will overcome your procrastination to receive that reward. It directly connects that internal drive, that passion, to the external motivator of the reward. It creates this powerful loop of positive reinforcement that fuels further action.
So the why needs to be compelling.
Absolutely. And this raises an important question about self-evaluation too. Are you truly acknowledging your progress along the way? Are you rewarding yourself? The book encourages objective self-evaluation, recognizing that making mistakes or occasionally slipping back into old habits, well, that's just part of the journey. It's not a reason to give up or beat yourself up.
Right, not a reason for paralysis.
Exactly. It's about quickly realigning their goals, acknowledging the slip, and moving forward again, rather than getting stuck in that negative spiral of self-criticism.
And this isn't just about rewarding yourself for the huge milestones, right? Like finishing the entire project. No, not at all. The book really stresses rewarding yourself for every stride forward, no matter how small it might seem at the time. Take out the trash you've been avoiding. Acknowledge it. Make that difficult phone call. Give yourself credit. It reminds us that change is progressive.
Progressive, not instant.
Exactly. Every little step counts, and every step deserves acknowledgement. That reinforces the positive behavior, it builds momentum, and it makes the next step feel a little bit easier.
Okay, those habits make a lot of sense. Now, let's talk about overcoming that pervasive feeling, that monster overwhelm, and how to actually become action-oriented, moving from just thinking about doing things to actually doing them.
Overwhelm. The procrastinator's best friend and worst enemy. Totally. The book identifies it as a major contributing factor to procrastination. So what's the cue? The book says it starts with moving from denial, pretending the overwhelm isn't there, to awareness, acknowledging it.
Okay, face the beast.
Right. And then systematically cleaning out one corner of your life at a time. You can't tackle the whole mess overnight, whether it's a physical mess or a project mess, but you can take one bite at a time. Create those small wins that gradually build into massive transformation.
One corner at a time.
Yeah.
I like that visual. And how do you become action-oriented? The book provides such a vivid example of being action-oriented through this little story about a flight attendant. Apparently, a gate agent was making this huge ordeal out of a passenger's lost bag. Intent on proving the passenger wrong, detailing all the reasons why retrieving it would be incredibly difficult.
Oh, I can picture that gate agent.
Right. Just creating drama and roadblocks.
Yeah.
Then the flight attendant simply and calmly steps in and says, "I'll go get it."
Just like that.
Just like that. And that's exactly what she did. No fuss, no drama. She just embodied that now o'clock mindset, as the book calls it, a state of immediate, calm action. What a stark contrast to the gate agent who was more invested in being right and detailing the problem rather than actually being effective in solving it.
Wow. Now clock. That's brilliant. The contrast couldn't be clearer, could it? And it leads to that powerful mantra from the book: procrastinators find reasons not to do. Producers find reasons to do.
That's a fundamental mindset shift right there, from inertia to initiative. From finding excuses to finding efficacy.
So it's about choosing which side you're on in any given moment.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is the idea that true transformation, the kind that really sticks, it comes from an internal desire to change, not from being forced or shamed or threatened into it.
Right, intrinsic motivation.
Precisely. It's about feeling that internal juice, as the book calls it, that electricity, a new sense of purpose that just wells up from within you. It's described almost as operating from a spiritual level, learning to let go and let God, or maybe embracing infinite intelligence, however you conceive of that.
Trusting the process.
Yeah. When you shift into that space where you trust the process, trust your own capabilities, and connect to something bigger than just your immediate fears, procrastination naturally starts to lose its grip. It becomes less prevalent because you're operating from a place of flow and purpose, not fear and control.
The book really emphasizes that procrastination is ultimately based on trying to control an illusory outcome. We mistakenly think we can control everything, avoid disappointment, guarantee success, never fail.
Yeah, the illusion of control.
Yeah. But this desperate need for control, the book warns, always leads to disappointment and the deep pain of regret. You simply can't tiptoe safely through life, avoiding all risks, and expect to arrive at your grave feeling fulfilled or accomplished. Living fully requires taking risks, making mistakes, and letting go of that need for perfect control over outcomes you can't truly dictate.
Which brings up that important question again. In any given situation, are you finding reasons to act? Or are you finding excuses to delay? The book puts it bluntly. Winners always find a way. Average people always find an excuse.
Ouch. But true.
To overcome procrastination, you need reasons for acting that are bigger, more compelling than your problems or your fears. You need a commitment to finding solutions rather than just validating the chaos or sticking with the comfortable status quo. It really comes down to shifting your internal dialogue.
And the book advises paying very close attention to the power of your words, specifically your self-talk. What are you constantly telling yourself?
That internal monologue.
Exactly. It encourages becoming a master questioner, constantly asking yourself, what is my payoff for maintaining these current negative patterns or habits?
Payoff, what do you mean?
Well, is the hidden payoff getting to feel angry or resentful? Is it getting to feel stuck, which might feel safer than moving forward? Is it feeling like a victim, which might attract attention or sympathy through crisis? Recognizing that often uncomfortable hidden payoff can be a huge breakthrough. It shines a light on those unconscious patterns that keep you looping.
Okay. Identify the hidden benefit of the negative behavior. That's powerful. And stepping back even further, the broader implication here is about consciously creating a new identity. One that actually aligns with the future you desire, not the past you're trying to escape.
How do you do that?
The book suggests using powerful affirmations, but with intention. Things like, I am the leader people are looking for, or I am a producer, or even just, procrastination is no longer my identity. But, and this is crucial, these words must be followed by consistent action.
Right, words aren't enough.
Not on their own. It requires daily methods, bringing a sense of order to your day, becoming completion conscious, focusing on finishing things. It's a holistic shift from who you were to who you are actively becoming, day by day, building a new reality through conscious choice and consistent effort.
And the vision of life beyond procrastination that the book paints? It's really compelling, isn't it? You find yourself offended less often, you're not so easily hurt. People don't upset you in the same way, you don't fly off the handle, you don't hold on to resentment like you used to.
Sounds peaceful.
It does. You learn to let others be right so you can be rich. And rich here means rich in peace, rich in relationships, rich in purpose. You start living fully in the present moment, unburdened by the baggage of the past, truly designing the life you desire instead of just reacting to circumstances.
That's a future worth working towards.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered so much ground today, the types, the causes, the habits of recovery. Now, in our final section, section 5, we're going to bring it all together. We'll look at the holistic transformation that the Procrastination Cure encourages across several key areas of your life and really nail down what its lasting value is for anyone looking to make this profound shift.
Great. Connecting all the dots.
The book makes it really clear that procrastination isn't some isolated issue. It ripples outwards, affecting various crucial areas of your life. The book specifically highlights 4 interconnected areas: your addictions, your level of clutter, the quality of your relationships, and your sense of spirituality.
They're all linked, like a web.
Exactly. It's a web of cause and effect. What happens in one area inevitably impacts the others.
So let's touch on addictions first.
Yeah.
What's the connection there? What's fascinating here is the book's assertion that all addictions, whether it's to substances, food, work, drama, whatever, while they might manifest physically, they ultimately begin emotionally. They perpetuate denial, keeping you from facing the real issues. And they often lead to what the book calls a poverty consciousness. And that's not just financial poverty, but physical poverty, poor health, and emotional poverty, lack of connection, joy. It's about acknowledging what truly keeps you stuck, whether it's a substance, a specific behavior pattern, or just a deeply ingrained limiting belief.
And the link between procrastination and clutter is probably one many listeners will instantly recognize.
Oh yeah, the messy desk syndrome.
Totally. The book asks directly, is your desk overflowing? Is your garage a disaster zone? Is your closet crammed full? Is your bookkeeping a complete mess with piles of unfiled papers just radiating overwhelm?
That feeling.
Right. Physical clutter so often mirrors internal overwhelm. It makes it feel impossible to even know where to start, which naturally leads to more delay, more procrastination. The cure, the book suggests, begins with tackling just one small, organized step. Clean one drawer, file one pile of papers.
Break the overwhelm with a tiny action. Makes sense. What about relationships? Stepping back, the broader implication for relationships is significant. The book suggests that challenges here, difficulty with intimacy, chronic anger, simmering resentment, that persistent feeling of not being good enough, often stem directly from those underlying procrastination patterns and the past trauma that might fuel them, whether it's feeling violated, hurt, neglected in the past.
It all plays out.
It all plays out. The book emphasizes the importance of consciously making time for romance, for connection, for valuing the people who truly matter, rather than letting procrastination steal those precious moments with loved ones because you're always too busy or too overwhelmed. It's a direct call to prioritize human connection.
And finally, spirituality. How does that fit in? Spirituality, as the book frames it, is really about your relationship with yourself and perhaps with a higher power, however you define that. It encompasses the need for things like meditation, quiet alone time for reflection, getting restful sleep, and cultivating strong spiritual beliefs that provide meaning and resilience.
Inner connection.
Exactly. And the book makes this rather provocative statement. Your bank account becomes a reflection of your spiritual self.
Wow. Explain that one.
The idea is that inner order, a strong sense of self-worth, feeling connected to a purpose greater than yourself, these spiritual foundations profoundly influence your external reality, including your ability to attract and manage abundance. It suggests that your outer world often mirrors your inner state.
Inner state affects outer reality. Deep.
So bringing this all together, the book makes it incredibly clear that truly changing these patterns, achieving this holistic transformation, requires you to actively become a student of personal development.
Not just a casual reader.
No. It's about moving beyond just lip service, attending the odd seminar, buying the books that then sit on your shelf unread. You have to actually apply the knowledge. You can't just skim a book or listen to a deep dive like this one and expect to absorb the content by osmosis. Transformation demands active engagement and consistent action.
And the author's own journey is a powerful testament to this point, isn't it? It really is. He shares so candidly how he knew practically nothing about personal development until he started a 12-step program when he was 32. He began by reading sales books, then moved on to foundational works like Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled. Then he discovered Tony Robbins, and crucially, the work of Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn, a legend in the field.
Absolutely. And Combs' commitment was deep. He didn't just study Rohn's material, he set a goal to meet him. And he did. And then, remarkably, about 15 years down the line, he found himself sharing a stage with Jim Rohn.
Wow, full circle.
Isn't it? It just beautifully illustrates the power of having a purpose, staying persistent, and actively applying what you learn on your personal growth journey. It genuinely transforms your reality.
Now, one of the most practical tools included in the book, and something you, the listener, can engage with directly, is the Procrastinator quiz.
Ah, the moment of truth.
Exactly. It's a self-assessment tool that really acts as a mirror. It highlights how procrastination often shows up in everyday, easily overlooked habits and behaviors.
And this raises an important question for you listening right now. As I read just a few of these questions from the quiz, notice what resonates. Where do you land? True or false? Right.
Hear them.
Okay. I return phone calls promptly. True or false? Or do they pile up, creating that background anxiety?
Okay.
I make decisions quickly and promptly. True or false? Or do you agonize, overthink, and delay pulling the trigger? I don't delay starting on projects I have to do. True or false? Do those honey-do lists become honey I don't do's that linger for weeks or even months?
Guilty, sometimes.
My workspace is neat and orderly. It's a very comfortable place from which to produce results. True or false? Or is it, shall we say, a bit of a disaster zone?
Uh-oh. Next question.
When my alarm goes off, I get up promptly and I start my day fresh, alert, and ready to produce.
Yeah.
True or false? Or is the snooze button your best friend? One more. I seldom let food spoil in the refrigerator. My refrigerator is organized and spotless. True or false?
Okay, I get the picture. These are simple things, but they reveal so much, don't they?
They really do. They reveal those underlying daily habits and patterns that contribute to the bigger picture of procrastination.
And the book provides a spectrum of results for the quiz, doesn't it? From chronic procrastinator all the way to highly productive, with categories like bordering on chronic and moderate in between.
Right. It helps you gauge where you currently are.
But it always circles back to that core idea. No matter where you land, there's always room for improvement. It's not about judgment. It's a continuous call to self-awareness and growth.
So let's wrap this up. What does this all mean for you, our listener, at the end of the day? What's the lasting value of this deep dive into the procrastination cure?
I think it's profound, really. It's not just about learning a few tips to finish your to-do list faster. It provides a comprehensive, holistic path to transform yourself from holding that procrastinator identity.
Letting go of the label.
Exactly. Into becoming a producer, a goal-getter. It's fundamentally about changing why you do what you do, shifting your entire relationship with action, with purpose, with time itself.
It's about embracing that daily discipline we talked about, setting those realistic, attainable goals, and undergoing a truly profound shift in your self-perception. How you see yourself changes everything.
And this journey, the book promises, leads to a life with significantly more peace, more purpose, and yes, more affluence in every sense of the word. A life where you truly feel you deserve and therefore allow yourself to receive the rewards of your brilliance, where you feel empowered to design your own life, not just react to it, and maybe most importantly,
What's that?
where you live without the heavy burden of the pain of regret, the pain that comes from all those opportunities missed, potential untapped, and dreams deferred simply because you kept putting them off.
Stepping back one last time, the broader implication seems to be this. Take an honest look. Are your goals truly serving you, empowering you? Or are they inadvertently setting you up for disappointment and fueling more procrastination?
Good question.
And are you willing to embrace those small, consistent steps, even when they don't feel glamorous, over the allure of big, paralyzing leaps, knowing that it's the sustained effort day in and day out that leads to real, lasting transformation?
So your actionable insight for today, as you consider everything we've explored here, just take a look at one small area in your life right now that feels overwhelmed, cluttered, or stuck. Just one.
What?
What's one tiny, realistic step, maybe ridiculously small, that you can take today to bring a little bit of order or initiate some forward motion in that area? Not aiming for perfection, just aiming for undeniable progress. What's that one small step?
And remember, as the book powerfully suggests, you absolutely have the potential. You really are in the right place at the right time to make a change. The key is to recognize it, to claim it, and to decide to step into the big leagues of living your life fully, without regret, by choosing action over delay and purpose over paralysis. Start now.
Until next time, keep digging deep, keep learning, and keep transforming.